What is going on, everybody? This is Travis with Golden Blue BBQ, and you are watching the Backyard Barbecue Break. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Tonight's episode is going to be a little different. Rather than just meeting with the team and talking about their upcoming season, how their season's going so far, we're actually going to do a roundtable discussion. This is something that's kind of been on my radar, something I've been wanting to do for a while. And I know it'll help a lot of teams out there, especially people that are kind of on the fence about maybe doing their first competition or kind of getting their feet wet in competition barbecue. So we got a great cast on here tonight, a lot of talent, a lot of experience, a couple new guys, a couple guys that's been doing this for a bunch of years. So a lot of good information. As always, if you have a comment or a question, leave it in the comments and we'll see them. In order for us to see them on this feed, though, please go to the link scrolling across at the bottom of this feed. It is StreamYard.com/Facebook. Go there, just grant it permission to post your comment. That way we can see it on our side and we can get your questions and comments answered. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get the show started. We're going to bring in these guests one by one, give them a quick introduction so you know who they are. The first guest up has never been on the show before, and that is Steven Tasker with Tasker's Barbecue out of Glendale, West Virginia. Steven, how you doing tonight, bud?
Good, Travis. How are you, buddy?
Oh, doing great, man. What are you drinking tonight?
A little bit of homemade peach.
There you go. And for everybody out there, I'm still babying this bottle of Michter's American. So, Tasker, glad to have you on the show tonight. Definitely kind of one of the up-and-coming teams in the Mid-Atlantic region and starting to pound on the door of the top 10 in the nation, man. So, I think you're going to bring a lot of, I don't want to say newer, but you are one of the newer teams that's competing. So I think you're going to bring a lot of good opinions to this discussion tonight, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an honor to cook with you guys, and we've done really well so far this season. We're only 5 competitions into our career so far completely. 4 this year, 1 last year, and that was it. So, yeah, we're pretty new still.
Awesome. All right, so the next guy coming in is Eric Dub King, Uncle Dubby's. Dubby, how's it going, brother?
Hey, man, how y'all doing?
All right, man. You had a good weekend there at Mannington the other weekend for knocking the dust off after all winter. You had a good showing, man.
Oh yeah, it was good to get back. I've been watching you guys compete the whole time, and it's been driving me nuts. But I had some changes I made and moving around and changing careers and all kinds of stuff. And I was real glad to get back out there and had a great time. Yeah, it was awesome.
Well, good. W, you've been doing this a while, so I know you've got some good opinions and some comments to add to this show. So thanks for being a part of it.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
All right. Next on the agenda, bringing him on, is the Gypsy. We were actually able to pin him down long enough in his travels just to get him on this show tonight. So bringing him on now, we got everybody's favorite Gypsy, old Chris Lemon of Lems Meat Varnish.
What's up, Travis?
Chris, how did you manage to stay still long enough to be on the show tonight?
That wife of mine's got me strapped in this chair, so I figured I better sit here for at least an hour or so.
No doubt, I believe it. Those of you that don't know, Chris Lemon's probably one of the backyard teams that probably does some of the most traveling on the East Coast for sure, if not maybe the whole nation. So, Lem, have you been keeping track of how many miles you've driven so far this year?
Not so much miles this year. We're actually, whenever we go to Welch, it'll be our 13th contest of the year. So, made a few trips down south. I think I've hit 5 down south, from Mississippi over to Georgia, Alabama, and man, I'm losing track, Travis.
I tell you, you get around. And Lem,
Yep.
and you're doing good. I know you got a lot to contribute to this discussion tonight. You're currently sitting number 1 in the nation in chicken, brother. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
5th in ribs in the nation. So definitely one of the top premier cooks in the backyard. So
thank you.
Excited to have you on.
I appreciate you having me, man.
Next on the show, we've got everybody's favorite coach, the Cookout Coach, Mr. Steve Dotson of DQ'd Barbecue. Steve, how you doing tonight, brother?
Doing great, man. How's it going?
Doing great. Steve, so you pretty much dominated the whole circuit last year. This year, you've been a little quiet. I don't think that's a knock on what you've been doing, but just exaggeration of the caliber of the teams that came out swinging this year.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It is what it is. There's ups and downs with everything, but the part that looks amazing for our region is that my scores on average really haven't gone down. It's everybody else that's beating me right now have upped their game in the offseason. So it's just that game of cat and mouse.
Correct. But you're still holding your own. You're currently sitting ninth in chicken in the nation, and right in top 5, sitting at number 4 in the nation in ribs. So not too shabby yourself. So
no, we've tried to take advantage of these few off weeks to try to tune some stuff in, but you know how it is in the Mid Atlantic.
Oh, I know it's crazy. Every week is a battle. That's for sure. So, all right, next on to the show, we got everybody's favorite Piggie Smalls from Ham Squad, David Dick. How's it going, Dave?
Good, Travis. How about you?
Doing good, man. So, Dave, last year was kind of your inaugural rookie season. You did good. You held your own, and then you're one of those teams this year that just kind of came out swinging, man. I don't know what you did in the offseason. I know you did a couple classes, but currently you're sitting 8th in chicken in the nation, and you're actually an impressive 2nd overall in ribs in the nation, man. So, coming out after only one season of doing this to come out the way you came out swinging, it's impressive.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, ribs have definitely been a surprise for me. I took some advice from some of the other backyard teams. Lems held my hand multiple times through these competitions. He gets a little upset sometimes holding my hand.
I got to give him milk sometimes.
He hears me get called after him, and he gets upset. But chicken is, I'm getting my chicken back. I got first place call last weekend or a few weekends ago in Mannington, so that was nice because that was my category last year. So. I'm just kind of ready for the season to, get into full swing. I mean, we've already done quite a few though. So
yes, the teams that have done them, I think myself and Jamie Trader are one of the only teams that in the Mid-Atlantic region that have done 7 competitions right now in the Mid-Atlantic. So, we're definitely full swing. We're already ahead of where we were last year competition wise. So, it's fun that we have this many competitions now in the Mid-Atlantic.
Yep.
So, and speaking of Jamie Trader, let's go ahead and bring him in. Everybody's favorite target right now in the Mid-Atlantic, right behind of Dennis Bowman, who's not on the show tonight. This guy right here, Jamie Trader with Sweet and Savory BBQ. Jamie, I know you're working. Thanks for making some time for us tonight.
Absolutely, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Now, Jamie, you're you came out swinging this year. You're sitting 6th right now in the nation in chicken and 8th in the nation in ribs. But that's not really a good indicator of just how dominant you've been in the Mid-Atlantic region. The Mid-Atlantic region, it's kind of been a two-dog race between you and Dennis Bowman. You had told me in the off season that you weren't leaving anything on the table this year, and man, you are backing it up this season, man.
Yeah, we've been really fortunate, and I'm really just trying to keep up with as well as everybody in this area cooks. I'm trying to take advantage when I can. If we hit the right tables, we hit them. Just be able to take advantage of that when we do hit those tables.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's fun. You definitely, I think right now for overall in the Mid-Atlantic, we take the top 5. I think you're sitting on 4 first place calls. So I think one more first place call, and it's going to be tough for anybody to knock you off your pedestal.
I don't know, Debo. He's not too far behind.
He's
that.
trying. Yeah, I think he's only got 3. So you're one up on first place calls with him right now. So,
3.
but. I think between the two of you, I think you've taken all the first place calls except for 2 in the Mid-Atlantic. So that's an impressive stat. So,
yeah, like I said, we've been very fortunate this year.
Awesome. So that's our lineup tonight. Great panel for this roundtable discussion. Like I said, we got Steven Tasker, new guy. We got Dubby, who's he's not new, but he's been around a while. He's just starting out getting this year going. But just on this panel alone, to give you the example of the caliber of the teams. 4 of the top 10 chicken cooks in the nation are on this show tonight, and 5 of the top 10 rib cooks in the nation will be on this show giving input for all you teams out there that are thinking about competing, all of you individuals who are maybe kind of thinking about getting started in the competition barbecue. So, it's a great show, going to be a wealth of knowledge. Going to go ahead and kick it off with kind of, I think, one of the biggest things people look at and think. This is something that kind of came up in some questions when I was polling people on the show tonight, as well as when I did some research on a couple of different forums about people in the new team chat. Was it seemed to be that intimidation is a big factor for teams to come in and actually attempt to do a competition. It seems like teams don't want to come out and compete because they're afraid that the teams that have been doing it a while will kind of look down on them or harass them or just kind of not take them seriously. So there's a big intimidation factor with this. I'm going to segue this to Steven Tasker. Steven, being kind of one of the newer teams on the circuit, I'm sure at one point you kind of understood what the intimidation side of this was. how do you think you kind of overcame that, and what would be your opinion on the intimidation side of things?
So, like you said, when I first started wanting to get into competition barbecue, I think that was a big thing for me was intimidation. And everybody watches Barbecue Pitmasters, of course, and all these different TV shows, and you get this feeling that you're walking out here with guys who are going to look down on a newcomer, and they're just out to stomp the competition. And we bit the bullet last year at BBQ. We got hooked up with Dave Dick and went down there, and that was our first ever competition, and it completely was a game changer. So I went into that competition with the mindset of, hey, if I can turn in all my meats, I can at least get everything turned in, get a decent score, and show these people that I'm not some amateur chump. Then great. I came out of that competition. I wouldn't have cared if I had come in last place because it really opened up my eyes to how much camaraderie there is in this game, I should say. Travis was one of the guys we met down there. Obviously, Dave Dick, Russ Allen. We met some really good guys. Ryan from Two Pits Barbecue. And everybody welcomed us in, helped us out with everything we needed, any questions we had. And it was really an eye-opener for us. And that's when I decided, I'm like, you know what, I want to try this some more. Urbana was our second ever competition, first of this year. And, I kind of even went into it expecting that, we have some friends, most of the guys on here that we're friends with. We talked, but I wasn't sure how welcome we would still be. And you guys welcomed us with open arms, helped us do anything we needed, come down and check on us. We went up to talk to you guys, and it was really nice. It felt like a family. And ever since then, we've pretty well been hooked. And, it's something that's different. Not a lot of people get to experience something like that.
Yeah. Dave Dick, we're going to pull you in. You didn't, like I said, last year was kind of your rookie season. Now, you had kind of been involved with competition barbecue for a few years as a judge. Did you see any sort of, or did you personally feel any sort of intimidation coming into committing to a full season of competing last year? And if so, and I'm sure there was a little bit, but if so, what would you say the stereotype on that is, and how did that actually not end up being the case?
So I think for me, you were right. My teammate and I, Todd, started judging a couple years ago, and we ran ZombieQ the first year, and we had a great time. Debo and Scott Sinet were bugging me to add backyard, and I was like, screw it, let's do it, because we actually almost made it an only backyard event, actually. But kind of doing that, when I moved to Charlottesville immediately after that, I wanted to stay in touch with Todd. So we were like, let's try to cook a competition or two next year, a few competitions. And we went up to York, and that's when we got hooked because we got a fourth place chicken call in our first competition. And to be honest with you, we weren't expecting to do a full season. And it really just, the stereotype, I think, was always that backyard was either not as good or it wasn't taken quite as seriously, like you said. Getting into the game, I think, originally, years ago, I competed at the first Pickin' and Pullin' out in Lenexa, and it was like that. There was 40 or 50 teams that they just pulled off their charbroil grill or char griller grills, Cookout Coach. And they cook, they had like just one pop up and all that stuff. So like, kind of how it's evolved, it's become a lot more competitive. But as you can see, Tasker in his first few competitions, you see Two Pits, you see Off the Rack from Northern Virginia, all these guys coming out to their first 3 or 4 competitions and getting 2 or 3 calls. It's really cool. So it got me hooked doing that. And then, the other side is, as a judge, I always liked judging backyard because I got to taste a few things that were closer to what I could cook at the time. But then when I started to taste it, I was like, man, this is the same quality as Master Series. So it was really interesting to try that out. But yeah, overall, just the teams and the camaraderie really, I never felt not included or anything like that. I've always felt, welcomed and be part of the group. So.
Yeah. And, we say that, we know that's how it is in the backyard. Chris Lemon, we're going to bring you in. You travel a lot. Tell us, is how we have it in the backyard as far as the camaraderie in competition barbecue, is that pretty much what you see in your travels, whether it be to Marietta, Kansas, or down to Alabama or Missouri or everywhere else you've been? Do you see anything that a team should be intimidated about in your travels?
On the flip side of it, in a way, I kind of do. I mean, being a veteran, old school backyard team, there's some places I go that I'm like, well, crap. You try to sneak off to one, and anybody that does backyard tell you the Mid-Atlantic, there's going to be some pretty heavy hitters there. And I've been to Wisconsin, I've been down south, and a lot of those guys have been on TV. They have their own stuff going, and there is some intimidation in it. But if you can get down to what you want to do, I think that jump in with both feet. Try to shadow somebody, something like that. But the intimidation part, I'm sure it is a little intimidating. But I guess if you go and you have fun at the end of the day, call or no call, as long as you have fun, meet some new people, I think it's a win all around.
Yeah, I see that. And I think one thing too, backyard, we have fun. That's kind of our MO. That's kind of our mantra in backyard is we're there to have fun. I think all of you guys will agree with me on that backyard is the fun crowd. There was plenty of podcasts last year after the Worlds where people were even commenting on how much fun the backyard crowd was having at the banquet last year, and we see that at every competition. Whether it's Debo winning world champion or Dubby getting a big first place call on ribs at his first outing, it's not just the people that are there for that team half-having and giving them a congratulatory pat on the back. It's the entire backyard family at these competitions rooting for one another. At the end of the day, we all want to see one another do well. But if I can't do well, I want to see somebody else do well who I know has been struggling for a while. And, to see Dubby come out cold and get those big calls, to see Steven Tasker come out after only 5 comps and grand a competition the way he did, that's, I think, some of the allure as to, I think, why we keep coming back. Because I don't want to say it's a humbling thing for us, but as we see those teams do that, it kind of reminds us as to, hey, we were that team at one point that everybody was kind of rooting for. And I think that's part of it. We're all there for one another. Do you guys agree with that statement?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And,
everyone except Jamie and Debo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Steve, you got a comment? You look like you got something.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things we've grown over the past 2 years, such an awesome group in the Mid-Atlantic, not just friendly, like you said, but hitters like Lim alluded to. And sometimes I get a little bit worried that what if we get the backyard, the core group of the guys that have been there for a while so strong that the barrier for entry is just as tough as us going up to pro. And then you get somebody like Tasker come in and just hand it to you. And it's like, well, okay. I mean, it restored my faith that we're not being exclusionary here. So, it's always good to see that happen, even when it sucks.
Yeah.
True.
And I think some of that, it's not just Tasker. We got D's Butts and Beers. They're tearing up. Yeah. We got New River boys that always come down to Virginia. Every time we see them, those guys get better and better. And I think part of the reason, and I know we've discussed this off camera with some of us, but I think part of the reason of that is I think we're trying to bust that intimidation, that cliquey crowd, and that persona down. We see those new teams come in, and we all rush over to, hey, how you doing? Where are you from? If there's anything you need, let us know. We're not shunning those new teams. If anything, we're trying to help them out. We're giving them some tips and tricks. We're helping them build a kale box. And I think that's part of the reason that you don't, excuse me. I think that's part of the reason as to why we see some of these newer teams come into a contest, and they may not get a call, but they were happy and had a good time because they didn't feel like they were trying to figure it out on their own. They had those Jamie Traders, they had those Dennis Bowmans, they had those other top teams that they look at as competitors over there helping them and giving them advice. I think for a new team coming in, if that doesn't speak volumes to keep you hooked, I don't know what does. And I asked everybody for some pictures today, and I think some of these pictures kind of portray, what we're trying to get across here. Yeah, we're all out there to compete. There's some big hitters, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to what kind of fun are we having outside of the competition. And it's these kind of pictures right here. Us having cookouts with Alabama guys coming up to Virginia. Having a potluck. It's it's being excited because somebody won the world championship who maybe didn't have the best season they've ever had. It's all these guys, regardless of how they did, just having fun and being there for one another. And I think that is what really portrays competition barbecue. I
almost feel like that we should almost be intimidated. The guys in this chat, other than Tasker, I feel like we should almost be intimidated by the new teams, just for the simple fact that nobody wants to lose to the new team. You know what I mean? Just being honest.
But on the flip side of that, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and Dave Dick, you said it, you had that practice cook last year, and of course you had myself and Dubby came down. We showed you a lot of stuff. Could you imagine if you were a new team and you came in this year and you had all the caliber of teams now giving you advice and input?
Oh yeah. It's funny because in a way, I was lucky because I had a lot of connections with the pro teams from being a judge and an organizer. But then that practice cook, you sat down and Debo sat down, and I learned how to trim chicken in, what was that, early June? Wasn't that when we had the practice?
It was like end of March, maybe April or May. It wasn't June.
But it was like later in the quote unquote normal season. And I think our first competition mine wasn't until late June. And then I think our first one kind of as a group was July. But I didn't learn how to trim chicken until middle of last year. And then you guys helped me out. And all of a sudden I got 2 first place calls. And obviously, super helpful, learning that kind of stuff. And yeah, I could have watched YouTube. I could have paid for a class. There's a lot of things you can do. And I'm not bashing any of those things, but the way that this group kind of helps you out and you really learn from it, it's priceless.
Yeah. And nobody in this chat tonight was at York, not York, but Twin Valley. And the Fat is Where It's At just commented, Miss Pillion Meatworks came into Twin Valley and took a 3rd place in ribs at their very first comp ever. And I guarantee you all the guys there were excited and high-fiving those guys. And that's what it's all about, to see these new teams, maybe it's their very first competition ever, come in and do that well. There's no doubt in my mind that the guys that compete on a regular basis that were at Twin Valley definitely were hanging out and talking with those guys, because right after Twin Valley, Miss Pillion Meatworks actually joined the Backyard Team of the Year points chase. So if you're watching, guys, congratulations, and we look forward to actually meeting up with you in person. So, but yeah, so I think what we're all kind of getting into, it may be intimidating from the outside looking in, but really we're all here to help one another. We're all here to see each other do better than what we think we can. I know I've been down, Dave Dick's been down, Lem's been down. All of us have had our low points last year and even this year. And what do? We all help each other get back out of that rut. So that's what it's all about. So teams that are watching, if that's a worry of yours that it's intimidating, I understand and I get that it's intimidating. But just know, nobody in competition barbecue wants to see you fail. Everybody here wants to see you do your best and will help you any way they can.
Fun story.
Yeah.
Helping people when they're down. Urbana this year, day 1, very first competition of the year. Debo and I, Dennis Bowman, the reigning world champion, turned in chicken at the exact same time. He goes, "Oh, man, my chicken's dark. I don't know what happened." So we walk back the 2 minutes in between turn-ins, and I'm sitting there trying to help him diagnose what possibly could have happened to his pit. We go pretty in-depth into what happened during his cook today and what he did and what happened before and what happened after and what could have possibly made that chicken dark. And then he goes around and wins chicken. So moral of that story is just, if you ask for help, don't be a jerk like Debo and then win the category that you need help in.
Good moral. I like it.
Wow.
Yeah, don't be a jerk.
And Debo's not even in the comments to vouch for himself.
Absolutely. I mean, that's literally, we were on our way back from turning in meats, and he had a problem, and we had some time before rib turn in, so we were going to sit there and try to hash it out. So even though he was the reigning champ and my competition, we tried to figure out exactly what went wrong with him so he could fix it for the next day.
Yeah.
Just how we are.
Yeah. And I think you see that with a lot of us. I know myself, I usually go to the teams around me, whether it's seems like Steve, you're beside me most all the time anymore. And, it seems like we always kind of bounce ideas and what went wrong off of each other. And, I don't know of any other sporting event, and this is a sport. I think we all agree this is a sport. We practice, we put game plans in order. But I don't know of any other sport where you're going to go to your competition and be like, look, here's where I failed today. What do you think I should do to be better tomorrow? And they're going to give you their honest opinion on what they would do. I think that's one thing that separates competition barbecue from everything else out there. So
yeah, and I think Travis, I just want to chime in. We talk about backyard all the time and how great backyard is with that process. But I was at Golden Blue's tent on Saturday at Urbana, and I had a terrible pork day. And pork just isn't. I don't do it enough to be an expert at it. I've been getting better. And Luke Darnell pulls me aside. I thought he was going to beat me up or something. I didn't know what I did wrong. But he pulled me aside and he gave me some tips. And I went from like 22nd to 12th. And I mean, obviously, I executed better. I simplified a recipe. He said, you're doing kind of too much going on. But that's the other cool part for me is there used to be a huge divide between masters and pro. I mean, masters and backyard. And it seems like a lot of the masters teams are starting to accept the backyard a little bit more and see that they take it. We have a lot more fun and we goof around a lot more. However, we take it pretty seriously.
Not us.
We're not just hanging out drinking until 3 a.m. in Mannington, West Virginia. We're not just doing that.
What are you trying to say, Dave?
Roll Tide.
Hey, Lem, you want a shotgun of beer?
Dude, speaking my language. It's Bush Latte tonight.
Let's take the farmers, right?
Thank the farmers.
Hey, Dick, that drink looks pretty familiar, buddy.
Yeah, it's a homemade. I made it. It's a peach moonshine.
Oh boy!
Straight WB.
All right, well, I'm gonna head out.
Pepperoni rolls in it.
Reeling us back in, I do agree, Dave. I think that was another misconception. Was there was a kind of a line in the sand between master and backyard. You didn't really see a whole lot of commingling, and I don't know if it's just that we're seeing it more, or that the Master Series teams are seeing the serious and competitive nature of us, that it's becoming infectious to them to want to come and help us out also. But I do get what you're saying. And I don't know of any pro team out there or master team that if you go to them with a question or concern, they're not going to help you either.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think there's a few bad apples. And I think that's just how it is in every profession and every sport and everything. And I think that people, it's just like people saying, man, I don't like KCBS. I like SCA better than KCBS because of this, this, and this. There's always going to be those kind of people. And I just find that there are a few pro teams that are out there, but it's very rare. And actually the other pro teams don't like those pro teams either. So, because they're not welcoming people in and they're not growing the sport. So,
and it's not just pro. You're going to have a couple of those teams here, there in backyard. Like you said, it's everywhere where you go. So moving on to the next question. I think we've beat that topic into the ground. So we're going to feature somebody else here, and we're going to feature Mr. Jamie Trader. Jamie, there's another thing where people are worried that, hey, I only got, a drum smoker or a Weber Smoky Mountain. This guy's got, say, a Myron Mixon or an Assassin or some $1,000 smoker. How can I possibly go out and compete against this guy? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the big thing for me is you need to learn what you have. You got yourself, Lem, a lot of these teams cooking out here on drums that are homemade. They got a minimal budget into those cookers, and they're winning. You just got to learn exactly how to run that smoker, and the only way you're going to do that is by going out and doing it. Practicing at home is great. That'll let you nail down your techniques, but there's nothing that beats a judge's feedback. You can think it tastes great all day, but if they don't, then you're not really helping yourself.
Yeah. Dubby, we're going to bring you in. You're one of those guys. You travel with the Weber Smoky Mountains. Great entry-level smokers. You rock them. You do well on them. what do you have to say to those new guys who may be doing the Smoky Mountains like you are, who come into a contest and then see somebody like Jamie Trader with the mixing unloading off their trailer? You know, what's your thoughts on that, and what do you have to say to those people that think they can't win with those cheap smokers?
I attribute it to same thing as a guitar. I play a little guitar sometimes in my spare time. And the same thing, if you buy a $5,000 guitar and don't know how to play, I mean, it's not going to help you. You have to know, how to use it. Same thing. If you got somebody that's an expert and professional on like you said, a homemade drum, and come out there and beat everybody that, bought a $10,000 Outlaw or Jambo. Same thing. You gotta know how to use it. I think some of those higher end smokers give you a little bit more comfort and ease of use if you know how to use them, but certainly worth the money if you want them. But I love the Weber Smoky Mountains. They're fairly inexpensive. If you buy them used on Marketplace or something like that, you can get them and do a lot with them. And had good luck with them so far, and still learning. So,
yeah, definitely. Chris Lemon, you're one of those teams that are rocking probably the cheapest smokers out there with the homemade ugly drums. Of course, I'm rocking drums, but I also got a little bit more in mind than you do. You're out there winning, competing against guys running Assassins and Mixins and Jambos and you name it, and you're beating them on, well, you got probably your cheapest drum, what, $150 maybe?
If that, man, maybe like 65.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you're out there competing, and I think that's what's cool. I mean, like Jamie hit it on the head here. You don't have to have the most expensive smoker out there to compete. You just have to know how to run your smoker.
He hit the nail on the head on that one. If you can go out, if you can build your own cooker, great, good for you. But if you can go to the contest or even in your backyard and run it how it's supposed to run, you're already one step closer to doing competition barbecue or knowing half the battle. You know what I mean? No one's half the battle, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Those big expensive smokers can still run out of charcoal like we did at Mannington on day 2, sitting there talking to you. So,
right,
yeah,
that doesn't make a whole lot of difference on that part.
With my drums, I enjoy the fans on them. I use the Barbecue Guru fans on my drums, except for my UDS from udsparts.com. It's naturally aspirated. I don't care though. I cook my pork at 400, 300, 600. I might grill it. I don't know. It just depends on what the wind's doing.
Dave's freaking out. He's like, that's not on my timeline. Wait a minute.
Here we go.
Go up. I can't hardly see my phone from where I'm sitting.
But yeah. I think, I think people get caught up in the smokers they're using. Learn what you have, regardless of what your budget is, whether you're running a $150 homemade drum, whether you're running a Weber Smoky Mountain, whether you're running a char griller, whether you're running a mixin', it ain't going to run if you don't know how to run it. So put the time and effort into learning what your smoker is.
Yeah.
People out there win on every smoker, every weekend, in and out. There is not one smoker out there that you can say this is the ultimate smoker to buy and go with.
Unless
Steve, I know you and I had that discussion. You can basically name any smoker out there, and it has won.
Yeah. No, it's so I've had this conversation with a lot of people just because of the YouTube channel and cooking on different things, and people will come and ask me about different cookers and is this the question I'll get is this worth it in or whatever smoker? I got a question one time from a guy named JB Trader about Myron Mixing Gravity. And the thing I tell everyone is they'll all do the job. Just some make certain parts a little bit easier, and some have different tricks. So, for instance, I'm running the Char-Griller Gravities now. For the last year, I was running that homemade square drum. So, me, you, and Lem, we could get some of that fat dripping on hot coal flavor and almost like
that sizzle.
That sizzle, like Lem said, that almost grilled flavor to it. Well, I can't do that now with my Char-Griller Gravity, but what I can do is I can now dial in I can narrow that window of consistency, right? And if you look at guys like Dave Dick, and if you look at a lot of our buddies down in Alabama, from Puck Daddy, Pat, now Russ, Hickory Hangover, a lot of those guys run pellet cookers. And well, what's a pellet cooker? Doesn't do the same thing drum cookers do, but it's going to run about the same about every time. I think, right, Dave?
It runs about 180.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Steve, you asked for that one, sir.
Hey, Jamie knows.
Jamie knows.
All right, everybody. Piggie Smalls.
He kicked him.
I need some milk.
Yeah.
And a nap.
Get the froth machine out.
I need the frother.
The frother.
Hashtag Christmas.
Yeah, that's a good point. Every smoker has its own perks to it. If you're running an insulated smoker, you could care less what the weather's like. Some things you get that sizzle, that flavorization off of them. But again, it all goes back to you have to know how to run your smoker to maintain it. Whether that means you're running a fan system, whether you're running your dad as your pit controller, which, by the way, I will put my pit controller up against any of your all's pit controllers. But no, if you don't know how to maintain and run your pits, then that's the biggest thing you need to overcome before you take your step into the competition. That's where your cook happens. So moving on, next question. Lem, you seem to be the rub and sauce guy here, so we're going to leave you on the screen. What if somebody who is thinking about getting involved in competition barbecue comes to you with the mindset that they need to build or blend their own rubs and sauces, who don't maybe not know that most people aren't running their own sauces, they're running over the counter? What if somebody thinks that basically will store-bought rubs and sauces compete against what everyone else is using?
In my opinion, no, I don't believe so. There is certain things that I do buy from the store, like the grocery store, to put into my rubs and stuff, but not much. I mean, these guys that's been doing the rubs, Jonesy Q, you got Heath Rouse, you got Killer Hogs, Chupacabra, all these guys, they've been doing it for years. And it's a proven fact that people has won with these rubs and, certain sauces, and, which I am an owner of a sauce and rub company, but I do run my mild sauce on my ribs every now and then, and I've won some awards with it. But, my rubs, I don't feel confident enough to put my rubs on my ribs, turn them in against you guys at the end of the day on Saturday.
I think for sake of that question, I think it was more geared towards they thought they had to blend their own rubs and sauces to be competitive. They didn't realize there was stuff commercially available that teams are using. So, which I think it's safe to say, I think we can all agree that the majority of the teams out there are running commercially sourced.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a very small percentage of teams out there that are blending and actually building from scratch their own rubs and sauces.
Yeah, I don't think that would I would go with the guys as proven winners.
Well, if you are going to do that, just plan to lose some money until you kind of figure it out. Because, that's how you get the next Killer Hogs, Heath Riles, whatever, is by people being able to go out there and blend their rubs and sauces. But you got to be able to invest that time and money and know, hey, it may not work the first year, 2 years, whatever, to be able to get the product where you want it.
Definitely.
And it takes me a little bit of nerve to even run my sauce against you guys. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to tell what y'all's using, but I have a lot of faith in my sauce. I've won with it. I've lost with it. So, it can go either way any Saturday.
Yep.
I think another thing you can add to that is don't worry about overcomplicating it. The worst of times or the best, however you want to look at it, I know I've had who knows how many things blended into a competition sauce, or 5 rubs blended into a rib rub or whatever. But I guarantee you could go out any given weekend and find a pro team that placed top 10 in the category using a single rub and a single sauce on them. I'd bet the house on that any day.
Yep. And I think that's something too. I think as a new team coming in, I'm a firm believer in the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. I think a lot of times, and I know we're all guilty of this too, we try to get too complicated. We try to keep throwing everything like at the kitchen sink at this to try to get a call. And I think at the end of the day, I think sometimes we even forget, and we're guilty of it, of, hey, let's take a step back. We're putting too much at this now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Dave mentioned Luke a little bit ago, and Luke on his podcast constantly is like, anytime I get in a weird spot, the answer is always take stuff away, never add more stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And
He
that's a
almost
good
slapped me in the face when I told him what I was using on my pork. After I met with him in our band, he's like, "Throw all of it away."
That's a
Yes, sir.
that's a big man. You probably wouldn't be here if he slapped you in the face.
No, I'm glad he didn't.
All right, so we're going to move into the basic rules section of this discussion. In case anybody's watching that are thinking about competing, here's a couple basic misconceptions that these teams may have. I'll actually kick this one off with a fun story, which the first question here is, can I trim my meats before a contest? So funny story about that. At Almost Heaven Barbecue Bash in, I believe it was 2019, at 2 a.m., I look over and the current world champion, Dennis Bowman, is sitting under a light, swatting flies off of his face, trimming 20-some-odd pieces of chicken thighs at 2 in the morning. I walked up to him and I said, man, why didn't you do that at home in the air conditioner? And he dropped the stuff, looked at me dead serious and said, people keep telling me I can trim meat at my house and I can trim meat before a competition, but I didn't believe him. So big piece of advice. KCBS does allow you to trim your meat before a competition. So, how many here
The only
have been
stipulation
guilty
is pork,
of
right?
not knowing that? What was that, Dave?
I was just gonna say the only stipulation is pork, and I mean brisket. Maybe I don't know, but pork has to be. And Steve probably knows this better than I do. I think it has to be 4.5 pounds.
4
pounds. So. You can. I just want to toss that out there.
And
You cannot trim like the money muscle off until it's cooked.
unless it's a 4-pound money muscle.
Yeah, in that case, you're running a tenderloin.
But yeah, Dave. There's no limit on weight on brisket. You can trim a brisket down as small as you want.
Yep, that's just on pork. So yeah, first misconception debunked. You can trim chicken, pork, ribs, all your meats. You can trim before comp. Second one, we're going to pass this one off to Steven Tasker. Steven, can you inject your meats before a competition or before a meat inspection?
No, sir, absolutely not. And, like you guys talked about, we were lucky enough to read pretty deep into the rules before we started. And I'll give a lot of credit to Dave Dick. I probably made 5 or 6 phone calls to him before we ever did Zombie Q last year because I was nervous as all get out. I'd never done one before. But luckily, we were smart enough to know that we could trim the meat beforehand. But no, you have to wait till after meat inspection to do any seasonings and or trimming. Seasonings and or injecting.
Yep. So you can trim it. Just don't put any flavor enhancers or anything on that meat until after it is inspected. And speaking of meat inspection, the next thing is meat the only thing inspected during meat inspections. Anybody? Dave Dick with a hand in the air. Go ahead, buddy.
You gotta have all your other stuff. You gotta have your fire extinguisher. You gotta have your wash station. You gotta have your fire retardant canopy. You gotta have. They check your KCBS number. You get your boxes. They don't look at your garnish because you can you don't have to show what your garnish is. You don't have to prove it. And I'm sure you're going to go into that in a second. I think I got everything. There's a few other things that are in that checklist, and a lot of the organizers and reps will kind of like skip off of that. But I've seen it before where they will come in. So you new teams, make sure you have the fire extinguisher is probably the biggest one. You could probably
minimum.
Yeah, you could probably get away with saying, "Oh, I'll take my canopy down if it's not fire retardant," because technically that's part of the rules, I believe, as well. But the wash station and the fire extinguisher are probably the biggest ones that you kind of have to have, or you're screwed.
And as far as a wash station goes, that can be something just as simple as 3 totes with water. You just make sure you got your dish soap, your bleach, or your solution there and for sanitization and a rinse bucket. So your basic three sink kitchen setup is all you need, and it could be something as simple as a couple totes.
Right. Yeah. I always, when people ask me in a pinch, if you forgot it, we all have foil pans. If you get 3 foil pans out, boom, that's a wash station.
Yep.
So,
Bucket. If you got water buckets to hold your tent down, that'll work too.
Yep.
Ice on the meat. When they come to inspect your meat, I suggest that it be covered completely in ice. Let them know it's good and cold.
Yep. We got fat is where it's at. Did he hear somebody say a 5-pound minimum on a fire extinguisher? I'm almost positive it is a 5-pound minimum for a fire
So yeah, I think it's specific that it's 5 pounds.
Yeah, I'm almost
I
positive.
know
minimum
Dubby
of
hooked me up at York or Smoke at the Grove. So thanks, Dubby.
So, all right. So moving on, we're gonna let's let Jamie Trader move to this one. Jamie, what happens for garnishes? What kind of garnishes are you allowed to use? Do you have to run a garnish, or can you not run a garnish? And if you do run a garnish, what kind of garnish do you use?
You don't have to run any garnish. Personally, I've never seen a whole lot of teams do well without it. I would say the majority of the teams nowadays are probably using kale. Parsley is still a big thing too. I think green leaf lettuce is the other one that you can use. I think it's just those 3 things that you're allowed to use as far as
You
garnish.
use cilantro.
And you look at cilantro, man.
I wouldn't, but
I wouldn't, yeah.
Factor that flavor into your flavor profile.
I'm not using parsley either, but
Yeah.
I know some people do.
use grass.
But yeah, and new teams out there, go to YouTube. There are a ton of videos on quick, easy ways to build boxes. And if you're just starting out and you don't want to deal with a kale box, how many of us here has done the lettuce rounds? I mean, I think we've all done the lettuce rounds. It's a quick, simple way for just starting
I
out.
haven't done it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I actually prefer the look of lettuce rounds. The reason I stopped doing it was my nerves would just kill me, because for people that don't know, the way you do lettuce rounds is you wrap a stalk of green leaf lettuce up in saran wrap, cut the discs, place them in your box, and then remove the saran wrap, and they fan out and make a perfectly flat base. But if you happen to miss a piece of plastic from that saran wrap and a judge sees it, that's a DQ. So I couldn't keep doing it. Like it would just wreck me.
Yep.
So my other advice as a judge is whatever you're going to use as a garnish, test it out, practice it. Put your meat in a box on your garnish and let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 15, just because that's the amount of time it's going to sit from when you put it in your box until the judges get it. And open it up and get a smell of it. Take a piece out and bite it. Take that kale off, take that parsley off, take that green leaf lettuce off, cilantro, whatever the hell you're using. But one of the things that I notice sometimes as a judge, especially if I'm seat 1 or seat 6, depending on what meat it is I personally think that hot lettuce smells like shit. So when you open the box and you put like hot like pork or hot ribs on that green leaf lettuce and you open it up, sometimes that smell can really hit you. And it if you're a good judge and you're not taking that into account, obviously, but that smell or that taste could come onto the meat. I've had parsley before that, I take a bite of the rib, and even though I took the parsley off, you can taste that parsley. I know that Jamie just said the same thing, like with parsley and cilantro. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but just test it out, see if you like it, and see if that's what you like, and go with that one.
Yeah, that is a great point, Dave. One of the practice cooks I did at my house where I actually brought in 2 CBJs. One of them was Sean Moffat. He's a pro for Red Valley Barbecue. And when I took them my chicken box and they opened it up, he's like, all I can get right now is the smell of lettuce. It's like I can't get anything else. So,
yeah. So moving on, I think we covered that on garnish. Like I said, a lot of YouTube videos out there on garnish. So, Dubby, we're going to pass this one off to you. Turn-in windows for KCBS competition. What are the turn-in times and how do they work? Does it have to be in directly at that time? Is there a window I can turn it in? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have a window 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after. 12, 12:30, and 1. Yeah, it gets down to you got to have your timeline down. You want to keep your eye on the clock at all times when you're building your box, getting down to the end. Time is really important, and keeping track of how far you are from the turn-in window too. We had an unfortunate event in Indiana. I drove all the way out there and blew the pork turn in because took a little longer to walk down there than I thought, but live and learn. But yeah, very important. Pay attention to the clock and stick to your timeline.
Yeah. So what Dubby was saying, so chicken gets turned in at 12. So on a KCBS contest, you have from 11:55 to 12:05 to turn chicken in. You got a 10-minute window there. If you are just 1 second late after that clock strikes 12:05, they won't take it. There's no grace. If you are late, you are late. So you have a 10-minute window. As a new team starting out, my suggestion, make your timeline to where you're shooting for that first half of the window, that first 5-minute block. That way, if you do have a problem, you have 5-minute buffer there. Also, as a lot of teams learned at Interstate Barbecue Festival, time your walk. Do that Friday when you go to the cooks meeting. Just take a walk, set your timer on your phone, time your walk to see how long on a nice slow walk it takes you to get from your campsite to the turn-in time. That way you know exactly how much time you need looking at your clock to do the timing. Just little tips like that.
The other thing on that is, Travis, 12 and 12:30 are the normal timelines, but a lot of these competitions that kind of start out and get rolling out of nowhere, especially for these teams that might not compete every weekend, that team meeting, you have a team meeting on Friday night where they go over a lot of the rules and stuff. Smoke on the Mountain has a new turn-in time this year. It's like 12 to 12:15 and then 12:30 to 12:45. And then I've been at competitions, I know Dubby has as well, where the backyard turn-in is immediately after the pro turn-in. So 90% of the time, 12 to 12:30 and 1. But just ask somebody around, like we said before, ask somebody around you. They're not going to BS you unless you ask Debo or Jamie.
Yeah. And speaking of that, go to the cooks meeting. Don't blow them off and actually pay attention. Don't hee-haw. Don't cut up. Pay attention. I know Lem and myself were at a competition up in New Jersey. The turn-in times were completely different than what we're used to.
I was not a fan of
if you
that.
weren't aware of that, or if you just didn't pay attention to anything on the registration, you could have really been in a world of hurt had you had got up and started what your timeline usually is, not realizing that turn-ins were later. So definitely go to the cooks meeting. There's a lot of good info. Usually after the cooks meeting, they'll invite new teams to kind of look through pictures of boxes, answer any questions you have. But the cook meeting, as a new team and even teams, all teams, take them seriously. There's going to be stuff that comes out that may be pertinent to just that contest only that you need to be aware of. So moving on to the next question, we're going to pass this one off to the Cookout Coach. Actually, I think Dave Dick would be a better one for this since he's been kind of an organizer. He has seen
There he is.
Dave, since you have actually done a couple contests, you run a contest, you actually know kind of the behind the scenes. What actually happens to that box as a new team or as any team when I set that box down at the turn-in window? What happens to that box at that point?
So the rep takes it and then they shake it as hard as – no, I'm just kidding. No. So that's a great question. I know a lot of teams ask that, and even teams that have been competing. I know Lem asks me, like, he's done probably 3,000 competitions, and he asks me what happens. But so what happens is you get your box. It goes onto a bread tray essentially, and 6 teams normally go to one table. So that's also a common misconception. If Travis turns in a meat and then I turn in immediately after him, I may be on his table, I may be on another table, but my meat doesn't get judged by every judge in that room. So that's very important for you guys to know is your sample from ribs or pork or chicken is going to get sampled by 6 judges. So consistency for the size of a table for KCBS is 6 judges. They can judge anywhere from 3 samples up to 9 or 10 samples, but 6 is that ideal number. We've had 8 a lot of times, but 6 is that ideal number. And then your meat shouldn't land at the same table, especially for a 2 meat, unless there's only like 4 or 5 teams, maybe 6 teams. They might land at the same table. But after that, you'll land at 1 table for chicken and 1 table at ribs. But your sample will get taken to the table. They'll all be lined out. The table captain will circle the number so that the numbers are clear as to did this box land at this table already for a different category. And then every single sample, all 6 samples, for example, will get judged on appearance one at a time. So the judges will all mark down that appearance score. So those of you that, and I'm going to go on a quick tangent, those of you that get concerned that your bottom ribs, for example, are ugly, don't stress out about it because they can't change their appearance score after that appearance has already been done. So if they're judge number 4 and the top 3 or 4 ribs get taken off the top and then they see a big chunk out of that bottom rib down there, they can't change that appearance score. So that's one thing, but that's how the appearance goes. And then once every sample has been judged on appearance, then they'll be judged on taste and tenderness. So the judges will have a little placemat, and they put I'm going to go with ribs because it's the easiest one. They put a rib in each square, and then they take a sample of one. They judge it on taste and tenderness, and they mark those scores down. And then sample 1 is done. There's no changing that score. If they taste number 2, let's just say they gave 999 on 1 and they taste the second one and they're like, man, this taste is out of this world. They can't go back and say, oh, this one's an 8, this one's a 9, because you're judged based on the KCBS standards, not based on who's at your table. Obviously, if you're the best at the table, most likely you're going to score the best, just based on numbers. And then once all those samples are taken, the table captain will actually take the scorecards normally, and then that's when the judges write their comment card. And sometimes you'll see that the comment cards might have a number off, and the reps are really, really good about making sure those line up. But you got to understand that they don't have that scorecard right in front of them. So a lot of times as a judge, I'll write down on the square and I'll say, tough or salty or something like that. So I remember what to put on that comment card if I'm going to write a comment card. Hope that answers it, Travis.
Yeah. And now, Dave, what about a team who says, judging, but, my number is on the box. So they're going to kind of know if they know whose team number is, there's some, how does that work? If my number's on the box, is it really a blind judging?
I missed that step. So essentially you get a number like 53. That's your box number that you see as the team. When you hand that into the reps or whoever's at the turn-in table, those turn-in tables, folks, have a list and they say, all right, 53, we're going to relabel as 342 or some random number, right? And then that's your number when it gets to the judges. So they put a sticker over top of your 53 and it completely covers it. They don't see the 53. They don't see any of that. And that goes to the table captain and the judges. The table captains and the judges never see the original number. The only people that see the original number are those people at the turn-in table. And they don't, when they see the original number, they don't see, for example, Tasker's BBQ Supply number 53. They literally just see 53. I need to put a sticker that says 352 on top of it or whatever. And then that goes over. And then that box number is what's given to the the reps. And then the reps type in all of those numbers and calculate all the scores. And that's a lot of you that are confused about what happens after turn-ins. They're going through all of those numbers and making sure they're clearly written and that they're understandable and they're legible. And then also they're going through all of the comment cards and making sure that if a comment card came out that was a 976, that team actually did get a 976 from that judge. Because you don't want to get a comment card that doesn't match up with any of your scores, because then you're going to be really pissed as a competitor.
I think one of the best pieces of advice is Chris Lemon. You had actually said this earlier today. Print off the KCBS rules. It's
Absolutely.
Like one sheet front and back. It actually folds into a pamphlet. Keep that in your trailer. Print it off at the beginning of every season. And then if you have a question on the rules, you have that. It's not a big old rule book. Like I said, it's just like a pamphlet front and back. And it covers everything you need to know. I think that's a big piece of advice for new teams and those season teams as well, is to print off the new rules every year. Because rules do change from year to year. It's usually nothing drastic, but it'll be something small. With COVID the past 2 years, rules on turn-ins have kind of come and gone and changed. So just to print them out to know what you need to do. Of course, those questions can also be asked in the Cooks meeting. But big piece of advice there, thanks for sharing that, Chris, was definitely print out the KCBS rules and keep on hand.
The other thing I want to toss in for the box, don't put like a cup or anything in your box. You can't have toothpicks, aluminum foil, plastic, anything like that. And also don't say, oh, I'm going to put a spoonful of sauce in the corner so they can dip it into that. If you put pooled sauce in, it's a disqualification. So it's in the rule book, but just to toss it out there.
Yeah. And moving on to another thing that we had is, this is more of a comment that we kind of had more than a question. And you kind of touched on it, Dave, with appearance. You may not have one rack that cooks good, or you may not have chicken. There's ways you can build your box to hide that. But also as a new team, don't get so stuck up on your appearance that you sacrifice a tender piece of meat or a good piece of meat just because it may not look as good as some of your other ones. I think we've all been guilty of it. We'll sacrifice tenderness points to chase appearance points. I know I'm guilty of it. Does anybody have any thoughts on that statement?
It's a tenderness contest. It's really all it is. I mean, for the most part, your rubs and sauces, for the most part, out there are all very similar. Your nitty gritty and what's going to come down to who is winning that contest is going to be tenderness. So that's what you really, to me, that's what I try and focus on the most. And then the other stuff tends to come with that.
Yeah. It's a weighted scoring system in KCBS. So for every appearance point you get, a taste point, for example, is worth 5 times the amount. So something like an appearance point is really worth a half a point. Taste point is worth 2.5 points. And then tenderness is 1 point something. I can't recall there. But yeah, it's a weighted scoring system. So obviously you always want to put forth your best product. But if you must choose, pick based on that weighted system. And a more tender piece of meat, something that the judge doesn't have to fight. I mean, subconsciously, it's probably going to taste better too, because it's just a more enjoyable experience.
I would say tenderness is more objective than taste too, because taste you can get. I was talking to Debo about this a few weeks ago. I tend to go a little bit sweeter on chicken than he does. He's a little bit more savory, but as a judge, you can give both, even though they taste completely different. Both of those can get a 9 on taste. But if my tenderness is so, this is the item that I'm looking for, and you have to hit that mark to get the 9. With taste, you can hit a spicy mark, you can hit a sweet mark, you can hit a savory mark, you can hit a lot of different marks to get that 9. But in appearance, I mean, I obviously shoot for the best appearance that I can, but I don't kill myself. It's exactly like you said, Travis. If you focus too much on appearance, you're going to lose those taste and tenderness points because you're going to try to pick a pretty rib instead of a good tasting rib.
Correct.
That happened to me. I took Dave's advice.
We've all done it, man.
Dave gave me the best advice there before Smoke on the Grove, and that was the qualifying first place rib call that got me out of Kansas last year, because I was too focused on what they look like. You can paint a pretty picture as long as it tastes good. That's what they want. It needs to be tender.
Yep. All right, so moving on, I'll leave you all up here for this one. Oh. Somebody talking? All right, moving on, I'll leave you all up here for this one. I want to do this to make money.
I
Stay home.
Debo, go home. Or Jamie Trader.
Unless your name's Dennis Bowman or Jamie Trader. No.
Yeah.
Stay home.
Just stay at the house.
There is no money to be made in competition barbecue. I don't care who you are. I don't care what level you compete on. It's bragging rights, and that's about it.
If you can get some gas money to get home, that's a good day.
I mean, to be super fair, there have been like 3 people who actually did it full time at different times. I mean, everybody knows Byron did it full time. Melissa Cookston did it to pay their bills for a while, and Darren Worth, I think, netted like 6 figures. He said something on a podcast one time, netted like 6 figures one year. But that's a guy they literally refer to as the greatest of all time. So yeah, just
and I don't think that's consistent. You know, you can have a few really good years. I mean, Myron is a little bit of a different story, but Myron was also in a different time now. You know, people are doing classes, and the competition level and the expense in it is just a lot higher than it was then.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, if you want to make money doing it, you need to have a different aspect to it. You need to have look at guys like Tim Shear out there.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't. He's pretty good, so he might break even with winnings for his entry fees and whatnot. But he makes money selling Gateway Drum Smokers and selling classes and selling Blues Hog. Same with everybody right now. That's in this as a business.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But yeah, there is not much money, if any, to be made. You will lose money doing this.
Oh, yeah.
But the money you lose, you'll make up for that with belly laughs and just partying.
And knowledge.
And knowledge, that's right.
Around the corner.
You can't
Moving on
put a
to the
price
next
on
question.
friendships.
As far as being prepared for the necessities that you may not have in the comforts of your own home, getting ready for your very first ever barbecue competition. I know we can practice and practice and practice all we want at home. Leading into that first competition, we think we have it all. It's bound to happen. We're going to get to that first competition and realize we forgot something. Hopefully we remembered to bring the smoker. Hopefully we remembered the meat. But I know we've all forgotten something. A couple big key things. Plan to take 1 or 2 extra additional extension cords than what you think you need. Make sure if you need water, make sure you take maybe 1 or 2 additional hoses than what you think you're going to need. I know water and electric is a commodity. It's not necessarily going to always be there for you unless you're willing to work for it. So I know, who on here? I know, Lem, you need power for your controllers. Jamie, are you running a controller or on your mixing?
Yep. Yeah, we got a guru.
Yeah. So, that's something you all have to think about. How close are you all to the nearest electric?
Well, that's the thing. Regardless of power, I bring a generator to every contest. It stays in the trailer.
100%.
Yeah.
But starting out, a team may not have access to a generator or the funds. If that's the case, just plan ahead and know you may have to have a nice run of extension cable to either share off of a neighbor or to run to the nearest outlet. So that's something you need to think about.
And also, make sure you read the application when you sign up for a competition because, I mean, there are some that we've been to, and I've been to, I think, 3 or 4 of them. Most of them were backyard-centric, where they just don't have power, and they'll tell you they don't. So, yeah, you've got to be very clear. And I talked to a lot of organizers who want to add backyard, and I'll tell them because that's a big cost for an organizer to supply electric, especially if they need to go rent large diesel generators. I tell them most of the time the folks I know and compete with are very accommodating to you not having power, but you need to be very clear right up in the very beginning of putting your applications out that you do not have power.
Yeah. Yep. And the best thing, if you don't know, ask the organizer. They are more than helpful to answer your question. And if you need something, whether it be water or electric, they will do what they can within their power to help you make sure you get it. Dave Dick comes to mind. He was willing to sacrifice his own generator to make sure somebody got a generator. That's just what the organizers do. They don't want to see the teams fail. They want the teams to have a good time and come back. So if you need that, let the organizers know and tell them what your needs are too, even if you don't see it offered on their registration. So next question I got, how much meat should I cook? For the sake of this discussion, we're going to say a 3-meat backyard. Single day, 3-meat backyard. How much meat we cooking?
Don't ask me.
I know for myself, for a single day, I'm cooking 12 chicken thighs, 4 racks of ribs, and 2 pork butts. That's kind of my standard every contest.
I'm gonna go 8 thighs, 2 racks, 1 butt.
I got that much confidence.
Like a boss.
I do 16 legs, 4 racks, and 3 butts is what I normally do.
I buy 16
for that.
thighs, cook 12, 3 racks, and 1 butt.
Yeah, I pretty well do the same as you, Travis. And I learned real quick after Zombie Q last year, I cooked way too much food.
Yeah, I go 16 thighs, 3 racks of ribs, and 1 or 2 butts, and that's depending on what I can find.
Yeah.
If I can't find 2 good butts, I'm not bringing 2.
Yeah.
So my thing I do too, I split all my meat up. So like the way I do my chicken, I will run 6 thighs in one pan and 6 thighs in another pan. Because heaven forbid, and it has almost happened that I've almost dropped a pan of chicken getting ready for turn-ins.
Yep.
By doing it that way, if something, heaven forbid, I would drop that pan and it would be crap. I have another 6 thighs, regardless of how they turned out or how they look. At least I got 6 something I can put in a box.
Yep.
Same way with my ribs. I run ribs on 2 racks, so 2 on each rack for that same difference. And pork butts the same way. I run pork in 2 separate pans, just so that, for me at least, I always have a backup enough quantity to turn in if something would go wrong with that. So yeah, seems like we're kind of all right there as far as how much meat to cook. Anywhere from 2 to 3 pork butts, anywhere from, except for Lem, anywhere from, we're all right around 4 racks of ribs, and then anywhere from 12 to 16 chicken thighs.
I told Steve, I told him the other day, I said, one of the main reasons is when I do 2 racks of ribs during a contest, I feel like I can give those 2 racks a lot more attention, a lot more evenly cooked rib than I can do them 4. But of course, I cook on a can, so it's one of those things where it comes down to space. It's almost like, if I have 4 of them, I've got 2 this on the outside edge that might get a little bit crispy, whatever. But when I do 2 racks, they're over the diffuser. I can focus a lot more on the 2 racks than I can 4 racks, if that makes sense.
Yep. I would also say don't overshoot it just because you have the ability to. At the Worlds, I ran 32 thighs and 6 racks of ribs.
Jesus.
And that was it was just over. Like, I wanted to say,
I haven't even cooked 32 thighs all year.
You need to watch it. Hashtag Springer Mountain Farms.
I hope they're watching.
No, but if you do too many, then it does exactly like Lem's saying. You get overwhelmed. I'll tell you what, at the Worlds, I didn't even look at 3 racks of ribs. 3 racks of ribs, I didn't even pull out of the camera. We turned in off the – so, like, you get overwhelmed. Like Lem said, if I cook 8 thighs – I know which 6 I'm turning in.
It literally takes you 0.2 seconds to pick 6 thighs when you cook 8 of them. There's no hesitation.
And Dave, speaking of what you said, and somebody by the name of Luke told me and Steve this, you didn't taste or even attempt to pull out 3 of those racks. Who's to say one of those racks wasn't a money 180 rack, and they're still sitting in that Cambro?
Yep.
Somebody once told me, always taste every rack, even if you think you found the one you're going to turn in.
Yeah, well, I think it's Tuffy that's usually credited with being quoted as, if you cooked it, cut it. But in that vein, like Dave, I didn't know you ran 32 pieces of thighs. But when I was preparing for my second comp, I was cooking, it was a 3 meat, and I'd only ever done a 2 meat, and I had 2 Ever Smoky Mountains, and I had one of the mountains loaded with 3 pork butts and 4 racks of ribs. And the time it took to cook that, because there was such a restricted airflow, it added an hour to the butts and to the ribs. And I happen to know that a guy named Piggie Smalls was rather disappointed that day because his chicken didn't get quite as hot as he wanted it to. And if he would have told me that he ran double the amount of chicken they normally does, I probably could have told him why.
Everybody needs to relax, okay?
Dave, we'll take the attention off of you. Moving on to the
I can't
last
handle this.
You need a nap.
I need a nap.
hot chocolate and a
Say
long
milk.
nap.
I need a warm milk.
If anybody has any connections to Swiss Miss, let's hook this boy up. He needs it.
Hashtag Christmas.
But no, so moving on to the last.
I know how this goes.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to the last big piece of advice I got for tonight. And this was one that I personally struggled with for probably my first year and a half. And I know a couple of you others too. And it's probably the biggest piece of advice that I could give is don't get caught up in what the teams around you are doing. Stick to your own game plan. I spent a year and a half watching Steve Dotson put meat on at different times than me and freaking out and then just going and following him just to realize I was screwing myself. And funny thing is,
I have a fun story.
Frostburg was the first time I ever competed. I said, I don't care what anybody around me is doing. I'm sticking to my timeline. And look at how we worked out then. But as a new team, don't get caught up in what teams around you are doing. Everybody's got their own timeline.
Sometimes I'll rip foil just for no reason to throw everybody off. Like, oh man, it's 9:30 and Lem's just now doing this. Like, you got it.
That's where that throwaway rack of ribs comes in that you put in an hour before turn-ins on.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, what were you saying?
There was a time where you and I were talking to Mr. Darnell, and we're like, yeah, so I flipped my ribs over. And he goes, why do you flip your ribs over? And you go, because I saw Steve do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's working for Steve. I should be doing that. So, that just goes back to what I said, Don't get caught up in what the people around you are doing. Do what works for you.
Don't completely ignore it either. If you want to talk to them and figure out how and why they're doing what they're doing, that may help you. But to me, the last thing you want to do is make a last-minute decision, like something drastic that's going to screw you up. That's something you've never done before. If you've been consistent and you've done well, then just run it and then try it again next time.
Yeah.
You also don't know what temperature that team is cooking at either. They could be wrapping chicken, they could be wrapping ribs, they could be cooking at 350, they could be cooking at 225. Yep. You don't know what temperature that team's running, so when they're ripping foil, don't go foiling your stuff. Kind of stick to your timeline, make a plan, stick to it.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. Is a lot of you guys talk about putting your pork butts on early in the morning, and Steve Dawson's a good one. He said, I woke up to go pee at 1 o'clock in the morning. He said, I look over, your pit's already rolling. I put my pork butts on early and just let them go and let them cook slow, and it hasn't done too well for us, but I think that was because of something else, because we hit pretty good in Mannington, and we didn't change our timeline. We just changed a little bit of a recipe, and we did well there. So, it works for us, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah. And you still have your low and slow guys that put their pork butts on at 1 in the morning. Then you got those of us that aren't putting them on until 5:30. And if you're a new guy and you're seeing people lighting their pits at midnight and you're not planning on putting yours on until 3 o'clock, it could freak you out. Vice versa, if you're not planning on putting, say, your chicken on until later and you see people starting to prep ribs and chicken and starting to throw that on, it might have you second guessing yourself. But if you've practiced and it's worked for you, don't make those adjustments that drastic that day. Wait and practice with them. Kind of make a mental note or write it down as what you're seeing, and maybe practice it that week before the next competition.
Yeah. If you showed up with a plan, execute that plan and see what it does. Yep. And dear God, don't look over at Bowman, because he doesn't do anything till 9:22.
Speaking of Bowman, guess who finally joined in the show?
There he is.
The world champ has graced us with his presence finally.
There he is.
So, gentlemen, we are coming up on an hour and 20 minutes on this show tonight. So one other question I had that it seems to be a question I know we all hear is, where can I go to actually find out where these competitions are? And there's a lot of great resources out there to find competitions. Now we kind of focus strictly on KCBS in this area, and that's what I'm going to kind of focus on. But there's other, there's MBN contests, there's Alabama Barbecue Association contests. There's all sorts of different contests. There's steak contests if you want to do some steak cooking. For the content of this video for KCBS sanctioned events, you can go to www.kcbs.us. Once you're there, click on this events tab and then find events. Once you do that, it will take you and you can just search by whether you want to look for a master series, a backyard, judging, or just search by all, which is what I do. And the cool thing is you can go to a map view. So, if we're in, Northern Virginia here, we can see what all's up here. You can select by date. KCBS website is a great tool to find contests. If you're in the Mid-Atlantic region and you want to do backyard contests, you can go to mabbq.com. Once you're there, that's the Mid-Atlantic backyard page. You can go to events. Once you're at events, look there, we got 9 days until the Coalfields Cook-Off. But once you're there, you can go down and see what all KCBS sanctioned backyard events are going on. If they're a double, it'll say if they're a double, it'll give you the dates, where it's at. And then most of these are also linked directly to that site. So you just come over here and follow that link. And then another one in the Mid-Atlantic region is the Mid-Atlantic Barbecue Association website, which is mabbqa.com. Once you go here, just click on events. And it's got a tab with their classes, contests, and there's the setup with a calendar. So you can go right on here and see what all is coming up and going on. So those teams interested, at least for the Mid-Atlantic region, there's 2 great websites where you can find Pro Series, Backyard Series, as well as your KCBS website. So great tool to use. I know we all had that problem when we first started out trying to find events. At least for us in backyard, they were a little farther and fewer between, so it was a little harder to find. But yeah, so anybody else have any ideas on places you could find events other than the 3 I just listed?
Facebook normally has people advertising for stuff. If you're in any competition barbecue Facebook groups, there's always somebody in there advertising a contest, whether it be sanctioned, not sanctioned, steak, whatever.
Definitely.
I'll make a selfless plug. I run a competition down in Southwest Virginia called Zombie Q. It's the Nightmare Before Zombie Q and Zombie Q. It's October 15th and 16th. We are at Cool Breeze Campground down in Galax, Virginia this year. It was going to be the last backyard contest in MABA, but I think there's one in New Jersey now. So, but it is a double, and we still have backyard and Master Series openings. So,
cool. Dave, while we got you on the screen, we're going to wrap this up. So before you go, any new teams out there are watching, kind of sticking with our roundtable discussion, what's a big piece of advice or, just something you would like to tell the new teams out there that kind of want to dabble in competition barbecue before you go?
I would just say reach out to the teams, reach out to the organizers. Everybody's going to respond to you. Join the Facebook groups, join the Facebook chats, get involved, and don't be afraid to just put yourself out there. Awesome.
Well, Dave, we're going to kick you off. Thanks for taking time out and joining us tonight, and good luck the rest of the year, brother.
Thanks, man. Talk to you later.
All right. All right, next up, Steven Tasker. Thanks for joining us tonight. Again, same question I just asked Dave. One piece of advice or suggestion, tip, something that you could tell one of those people out there thinking about getting into competition barbecue.
The biggest thing I can tell anybody is, if you really want to do it, don't be afraid. Dip it in, just go for it. Like Dave said, reach out to any of these guys running contests. Reach out to me, myself, any of the guys you've seen on tonight's show. I'm sure anybody would be more than willing to help you. I know for a fact I'd be more than willing to help any team that wants to get into it. I've even invited some of my friends to come with me and help me in a class. So maybe they can actually come and kind of see what it's like before they start competing themselves, and they can get a feel for it. And I think that's a really great idea. I kind of wish I'd have done that, but I'm not unhappy with the way I started.
All right. Steven, good having you on the show. We'll have to get you back on here some other time. And
I appreciate it, Travis.
Keep knocking it out of the park, and we look forward to seeing you out there on the competition trail some more, bud.
For sure, buddy. We'll see you in West Virginia soon.
That's right. Thank you. All right, next up, the Gypsy. We better get you off here before you end up packing up and heading out. So,
You never know.
same question as everybody else, man. What's your one tip, or piece of advice for somebody interested in getting into competitions?
Man, you hit on it earlier. I think your biggest bet is to go to KCBS .us. Print off the rules, see what you're working with, see what you got going. Secondly, I would go with budget. I mean, stay within your means. You know what I mean? Like competition barbecue can get extremely expensive, especially if you decide to join the master side. You know, come in the backyard, depending on where you're planning on traveling to. You know, don't put yourself in debt going over it. Hook up with the team, maybe kind of shadow them, let them show you some ropes, take a class. YouTube, there's a lot of options, man. It's, you know, but I would say budget and knowing the rules of the trade would be your best bet starting off.
That's right. All right. Well, Lem, thanks for coming out and taking some time out to be on this roundtable tonight, man.
Yeah,
good luck
buddy.
and safe travels.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Later, brother. All right. Sweet and savory, Mr. Jamie Trader. Same question.
So I'm going to kind of go off the whole class thing. Take a class on, you know, what kind of grill you're going to be using, and then go out and actually cook it. You can take the class all day long, but until you can learn to actually execute that yourself, the class is going to help you some, but you really need to go out and learn how to actually execute that. I know Steve has taken a couple of classes and had to kind of go out and practice that to be able to, you know, move it to what he cooks on versus what the class cooked on. You can get a recipe all day, but until you can execute it, it's not going to do that much for you.
That's right. Well, Jamie, thanks for fitting in this in your work schedule today.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to seeing you in Welchton next week.
Yeah, we'll see you soon, buddy.
All right. Take care. Dubby, same question, man.
Yeah, I'm just going to touch a little bit on what everybody already said. Most important, though, I think have fun. Don't lose sight of why you're there. I made a promise to myself when I first went out there. I was going to keep doing this until it wasn't fun anymore. If it was a job or a chore to do it and show up every time, then I didn't want to do it anymore. And so far, I've been having a blast. Another thing I'll touch on: stick to your timeline and ask questions. Come around and see me, see anybody in this chat. I guarantee you, if you never met us or you never saw anybody, just come say hi and ask questions. Everybody might not tell you their rub or their sauce, but I think anybody be willing to help you. I certainly will. I could talk for hours about barbecue. So yeah, just come ask questions and have fun and get out there.
Yeah, and that's a good one. You know, when it stops being fun, that's when you may need to take a step back and reevaluate what you're doing. So that's a good one, man.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. Well, safe travels, and we'll see you at Welch in a few weeks.
Yes, sir. We'll see you down the road.
All right, take it easy. All right, that just leaves us with one more guest on the show, Steve Dotson, the Cookout Coach. What kind of coachly closing do you have for us today, Steve?
Yeah, well, firstly, I would say go find the Cookout Coach on YouTube and watch his videos.
That's right. Or Taskers or Jamie Trader. There's a lot of good cooks out there.
Yeah, but especially the Cookout Coach.
Coach for sure.
No, what everybody said is fantastic. Really, I was going to say exactly what Jamie said, but since he said that already, two things. One is make it what you want it to be. If you want to go out and be a party team, go out and be a party team. If you want to go out and win, there's nothing wrong with that, but prepare for it. Prepare the way you want to execute. So Dubby mentioned timelines. You know, if you want to go out there and really make an impact your first time out there, there's nothing wrong with wanting to do that, but act like it. The thing that goes along with that is, you know, we're all a bunch of grown people out here having a good time. You'd be surprised how many people are bad at taking an L, right? You got to be a good loser. Be a gracious loser and a gracious winner in all this, because it's all going to ebb and flow. I mean, it's just, you got to remember at the end of the day, everybody said this is fun. I do this because it's fun. When it stops being fun, I'm going to quit. It gets really weird whenever somebody gets really cranky about what happened there. So always keep it a good time. Always keep it light. You know, if you take the L one day, you know, get ready because you're probably due for a W. So just enjoy it, soak it up. It's how we're choosing to spend our time off. Just enjoy it, hone that craft, and make it what you want it to be.
That's right. Well, Steve, as always, it's a pleasure having you on the show. I think we had a pretty good discussion tonight, and I'm glad you could be a part of it.
Yeah, it's always a blast, buddy.
All right. Until next time, Steve, I guess we'll see you at Welch, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks again. So that's it. Those of you that are seriously considering getting into competition barbecue, I hope this show helped kind of shed some light on some questions that you had, some thoughts you had, or just general help maybe answer some questions. So, as most of these guys said, if you're interested, just jump in, reach out, ask questions. It's nothing to be scared about. It may seem a little intimidating at first, but once you get to know the teams, once you get to know the people involved, it's some of the most fun and the most down-to-earth people you will be a part of. So go out there, just try it. And as always, reach out to me, reach out to anybody that was on the show tonight. That's all I got for tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed having you as part of it. So until then, everybody, get out there and smoke something. We'll catch y'all